Hey guys, and welcome to the 4 keys of a healthy relationship. I think this is a subject matter that we can all probably benefit from. And, I think about some of the travels that I've done in Bali and how relationship is such an interwoven component in their culture. They talk about how they relate to each other from one human to another. They talk about how they relate to nature, and then also how they relate to the divine. We're going to talk a little bit more about the relationship from the perspective of how do you have a healthy relationship more with your spouse or your significant other.
So, of course, one of the keys to a healthy, happy relationship is communication. And communication, like anything, takes diligent practice. One of my favorite sayings, and maybe you've even heard me say it in a class before, is that attention is the greatest form of love. And we give our attention in the way that we listen and communicate with each other. Now, I can say from personal experience that one of my greatest practices, because it's one of my greatest challenges, is not interrupting. And that's a practice of listening. So putting into action, are you already making fun of me?
No, not making fun of you at all.
So listening, hearing people through all the way to the end. Even if there's something that you really want to say, even if there's something that you really want to rise up and get enthusiastic about, or even potentially defensive about. That giving people the full spectrum of your attention, really hearing them so that you can communicate in a way that is healthy, inclusive. And this is where our practice really rises up to meet us. That we've said in other videos and talks that you don't have to add to your suffering. And how often when you're listening to your partner, in your mind, is there a little chatterbox going on that's creating a whole story that might not even be true? And as a result of you listening to this inner voice that's creating all of this chatter and narration, are you even really hearing the person who's right in front of you? So it can help you to feel into your body, get really grounded. If you're having a hard time listening or communicating, it can help you to breathe. Eye contact is a nice way to connect with the other person and also get some of those good neurochemicals going. So you get some oxytocin flowing through the body, which is not something that we get if we're connecting with people, say, through a screen. So communication is a really important aspect to a healthy relationship, and to be reminded that for all of us, it takes practice. If you find that you've caught yourself not listening, that you've checked out and you missed what they said, take responsibility for it. Say, you know what, I'm really sorry. For a moment, I got distracted. Can you please go back and repeat what you said? It's important to me that I hear it. And these are just small ways that we can take ownership of our listening skills and our communication skills to make sure that we're really giving the other person the attention that they deserve and the attention that communicates our love and caring.
And then along those lines, the second key to a healthy, happy relationship is, to really be present. And I think about this trip that we did recently. We were in Columbus, Ohio, and one night we went out for a really good dinner. We found this great Italian restaurant, and we were having this amazing, terrific meal. And the table behind us, there was another couple, and apparently, not that we were like snooping on them, but you could just tell that it was her birthday. And it was so sad because the guy that she was with, her partner, he was on his cell phone almost the whole entire meal. And it's just heartbreaking because being present with your partner is such an important gift. So when you're with them and when you're spending time with them, is to really be present with them, to put your cell phone and all these things that distract us, because the way that it works is the quality of your presence has everything to do with the quality of your relationship. And if your presence is shallow, then your relationship is going to be shallow. If you're being distracted from being present because you're checking your phone while you're at a nice meal with your loved one, then you're not going to get to go deep into that relationship. So that you're going to start to create a disconnect and a big void between you and the other person. And that's not really the type of relationship where you're going to feel good and happy and inspired in. So to be present. And again, piggybacking a little bit about what Lauren was talking about, when you're having a conversation with your loved one, so, you get home from work and you're catching up on the day, is to do your best to set aside, the thoughts that don't have to do with that moment where you're connecting with your partner, because they're going to be there. And if you don't make a conscious decision to be like, you know what, I could tend to these thoughts later, then that's going to pollute the power of you connecting again with your partner. So there's a saying that, if you're going to catch a rabbit, you never try and catch, more than one rabbit at a time. Otherwise, you end up with no rabbits. I want you to catch a good rabbit that's your good relationship, this healthy and happy relationship. And this speaks to, in yoga, what we call 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐩𝐭𝐞𝐫𝐬, which means one-pointed. Whatever you're doing, just focus on one thing at a time. So when you're with your partner, or you're with your child, or you're with your best friend, those are other relationships, is to give them the gift of your full, undivided attention and presence.
And part of how we can practice being present is planning to do certain activities together, really carving that time out so that you have spaces in which to connect. So, for example, in our relationship, we go on a date every week. And it doesn't mean that that's fancy, but we go out to dinner once a week at least to sit down with no phones. That's a rule that we have, so that we can be truly present with each other and spend that time connecting, getting out of our usual environment, changing things up, getting a new perspective. And then plan to do physical activities with your partner. Go out, go on a hike, go into nature, go to yoga together, go to a concert together, go do things together so that you're changing your physiology. And when you change your physiology and you move your body and you activate your breath, you get, again, some of those really good chemicals going through the body, endorphins and the things that help you to feel good so that you can be excited and energized together. And that even relates to intimacy, that you might need to plan that and get it on the calendar and decide that you're going to connect that way. And don't be embarrassed about that. Life is busy for everybody. Life gets really full. And we all know that if you're not careful about that, the intimacy might go out the window because the schedule gets so full. So don't be afraid to plan that time with each other. I grew up with a woman named Susan Jeffers. She wrote a famous book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And it used to horrify my dad because we would be out to Sunday brunch and she and her husband always used to talk about how Sunday mornings were their times to have sex. And this was so embarrassing for my sweet, dear dad, but it was this beautiful example of how that was part of their routine. They scheduled it into their week and nothing got in the way of that, no matter how busy their days got. On top of that, part of what we want to plan accordingly and share are the household activities. So, for example, Travis washes the laundry and I fold it. He washes the dishes and I put the dishes away. And there's this really nice balance of sharing in these activities together so that there is no animosity, there is no resentment, and it's something that we actually kind of get to connect with so that we keep our home a loving, kind, generous place. So think about with your partner, if you're in the same sort of stuck routine, how can you change that up a little bit? What would it take to go out and have date night? If once a week isn't possible, how about once a month? Can you look ahead in your community? Are there any special events going on, and plan to do something unique with each other so that you connect in that way that gives an elevated emotion? Because when we have an experience with an elevated emotion, it actually stays in our minds as a greater, more felt memory.
And then the last fourth key of a healthy and happy relationship is really this idea of recognizing what true unconditional love is. That unconditional love isn't the type of love where you say, I'll do this for you, if you do this for me. That's not love, that's called a contract. So unconditional love, it means to love without needing or expecting anything back in return, that you just love. And also think about when you want something from your partner, you want them to give you something. Try demonstrating that yourself. Try showing that and giving that. It's kind of like when Gandhi says, be the change that you want to see. Show that, and a lot of times then you will get that back from your partner. Now, research shows that the couples that really are the most successful are the couples that know how to navigate conflict. Because here's the deal. Any relationship is going to be riveted with conflict. I mean, our relationship has conflict. We're not some super couple that doesn't deal with what you would deal with or what anybody would deal with. We face conflict all the time. And you think about, like, even with yourself, like, take your partner away and just look at yourself. Like, don't you have conflict with yourself all the time? Like, your mind's thinking one thing, your heart's saying another thing, your body's saying one thing. Like, so if you have conflict with yourself, you're gonna have conflict with other people that you share relationships with. So don't expect that a healthy, happy relationship is a relationship that does not have conflict, struggle, and difficulty. So embrace that. Know that that's part of being in this dance with another human being, just like it's part of the dance that you have with your own self. And the best thing that you can do is to create kind of a container for when difficulties arise that you and your partner agree upon, so that when that conflict happens, you kind of have like this written agreement or this verbal agreement. For example, Lauren mentioned earlier, not to interrupt the other person. Because you start interrupting the other person in the middle of a conflict, you get emotional, and your emotions just like a tsunami take over. You become impulsive. You don't want to hear what they have to say. That part of your brain is not functioning well when you get angry and upset. So to have these guidelines already agreed upon before is really going to create a method for you and your loved one to more skillfully navigate through the conflict. And it can be whatever you guys decide that it needs to be. It may be that you have a timer and you get 3 minutes and then they get 3 minutes. And then you need a round 2 and then you get another 3 minutes and then they get another 3 minutes. And then you may say, you know what? We also need to agree that we'll need a little bit of space. Because I know when we've moved through difficulties and, especially the bigger ones, when you go away from each other and you have time to reflect and your emotions subside and you can think more intelligently, you start to really see things more clearly. And then when you get back, you can say, you know what? I want to take responsibility for acting like an asshole, or whatever it is. Like, you take ownership of it, and then that helps to, bring down the defenses of the other person. So space can also be a good thing. Lastly, along these lines of unconditional love is you gotta let your partner be their true, authentic self. And we're all changing. and we're all growing. And sometimes we want to hold our partner or our child or our friends, we expect them to be a certain way. And if they start to expand beyond that or to grow out of that, we unconsciously try and stop them and stifle them. But to really be able to allow your partner to grow and flourish and thrive, and sometimes it's not even going to include you. You know, like some of you can probably relate, like you love yoga, you love meditation, and your partner doesn't want to have anything to do with yoga and meditation. They'd rather go run a triathlon or whatever it is, and that's cool. Like, so let your partner, you know, do what they love and what brings them passion, and hopefully they'll let you do what you love, and that you have the security within unconditional love to just trust that and to lean into that. So be loving, be understanding, be patient, be compassionate, be kind, and that'll take you very, very far into a healthy, happy relationship. Any last thoughts?
Well, they say that there's no bigger practice than the practice of intimate relationship. So when you bump up into any of those challenges, see it as an opportunity. This is an opportunity to strengthen and deepen what it is that you've already established, to really take it to the next level, to look at yourself, like Travis said, to take responsibility for your inner state, your words and your actions, and then to see the best in the other person and to help empower them into their best version of themselves. So we hope that this has been helpful for you. It's always an honor sharing the practice with you, both on and off the mat, and wishing you a healthy, happy relationship practice.